Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. This time talking about Torchwood God Amongst Us, God Among Us 3. You know, I've been calling it Gods Amongst Us for so long that when I actually see the official and, well, let's call it actual title, I just look at it and go, no, that's wrong. No. Here's something to bring you up to date. In times of disaster, people turn to God. But what if they no longer believe in themselves? Cardiff is recovering from a catastrophe. Torchwood finds themselves up against the Disaster Recovery Committee. Instead of putting the city back on its feet, it seems to be preparing for something worse. There's a conspiracy to be exposed. A mythical monster becomes real. Fights are breaking out over drinking water, and Jack Harkness is getting ready for the end of the world. Now, as I pointed out last time, or a time a few weeks ago, depending on when you listen to this, I can only do one bit of, well, the end of the world at once. That's why I've still not watched years and years. But I've got Survivors out my system, and I thought I could do this, because this is the culmination of so much backstory and ins and outs and stuff going on, that it makes you go, you know what, I'm just going to build up to this, I'm going to bite the bullet, I'm just going to keep going. And yet weirdly, there's more box sets, there's another series beyond this. I didn't know that when I started this at all. Story 6.9, because let's face it, this is episode 9 of series 6. Does that make sense? In a sense, that's what it is. It's A Mother's Son by Alexandria Riley. Now, this is an exquisitely told story. I've not come across this author before, but let's have more from them, please. Yes? Here's the synopsis. Cardiff has suffered a catastrophic flood. Dozens are still missing. Survivors fill camps across the city. An inquiry has been set up to find out what happened. Bethan comes to the city looking for answers. Her son is amongst the missing, and no one seems to want to help her find him. It's starting to look like there's a cover-up. What is Torchwood? Can it really be behind it? This is a really well told story, because you've got the actual narrative of somebody trying to find the story. You know, always make stories relevant to new characters or old characters so that they can develop the story as it goes. People say, which is more important? Is it character or is it narrative? Well, in this one you've got a big chunk of narrative, so the way to approach that is by just wheeling out characters and having those experience what's happening. It's such a great masterclass in show don't tell, because we are being shown what's happening. We're being shown the cover-up. We're being shown what's happening to evil Andy. I know Andy's turning evil and is working. He's head of the committee, Andrew is. Yvonne Hartman is trying to protect Torchwood and save everyone, and failing miserably because of what happened at the end of the last storyline. God has lost faith in herself. It's incredible. The committee are just winning. You think you know where it's going, and of course it's Torchwood, so it wrong foots you left, right and centre. The emotional core of this story is heartbreaking and is so well performed. Mina Anwar is just superb in this one story. As a guest performer, she is just great. It's great that she's in this, it's great that she's in The War Master as well. But you know what? She just blows everyone else out of the water. And yes, I know everyone goes on about how great at comedy she is. But if you're great at comedy, you're probably great at drama, and she is here. I don't want to say anything beyond that, but you're getting to see different angles of everyone. Which brings us to my, sadly, for me, highlight of the box set. Now, I know everyone else will be going on about how great some of the other stuff is. Day Zero is incredibly dark. Thoughts and Prayers by James Goss is a brilliant ending to a fantastic series. But because it's about a podcaster, it's got something for me. Scrape Jane by Robin Bell. Here's the synopsis. Scrape Jane is a myth, a monster made up by an urban explorer, a monster that's caught on, a monster with forums and merch, with a book deal, a monster that people have started to believe in, a monster that started killing. This is a great story, and it is so visual. You've got brilliant character development from people who may or may not even be real. It deals with that whole faith thing that takes you back to classic Doctor Who, but in a totally new way. It's beautifully written, and it's so well performed. I just can't tell you how good this is. I loved it. I absolutely adored this story. Which brings us to Day Zero. Back to the standard end of the world shenanigans that Torchwood really needs in order to build up the tension, in order to provide the payoff in the last story. The water may or may not have been poisoned. It has been, you know it has. After the flood at the end of the last story, everyone now knows that it's Yvonne Hartman to blame, and it's just the escalation, the rapid end of everything. And you know what's coming because you know what the committee's plans are. It's incredibly dark. Here's the synopsis for this one. They've been warning about it for ages. Poisonous mould in the Cardiff water supply. But it's finally got out of hand. It's Day Zero, the day Cardiff runs out of drinking water. As people start fighting over the last remaining supplies, the Disaster Recovery Committee takes drastic action because there's one place that still has clean water, and Torchwood will do anything to stop them from getting it. Now, you know what? I didn't know that there's actually a place in America that changed its water supply over, and this is true. And it's ended up with a completely contaminated, undrinkable water supply. They're having to filtrate everything. The old water delivery system goes through lead pipes, and the lead pipes is also contaminating the water system after the initial first contamination. Now, this was on an episode of Ellen that I just happened to catch because it was on in the background, and I didn't know anything about this because nobody in the UK knows. And that was in my head as I was listening to this because it's a real story. It's what's happening in the world, in the first world, places where we should know better. And this is what's going to come more and more as time goes on. It's absolutely terrifying to know that these things are real. And it's absolutely terrifying when you're listening to this story. It's got pace, it's got drama, it's got evil Andy in it. And it's got people going too far. And you know what? In the current political climate, you can actually hear this happening for real. It's terrifying. And with a relief, it brings us up to Thoughts and Prayers by James Goss, which, well, this finishes this storyline beautifully. Cardiff lies broken. Torchwood lead... Here's the synopsis. Cardiff lies broken. Torchwood's leaders are even arrested or dead. In a storage unit, something forgotten has been reborn. And underneath the city, a terrible, impossible... And underneath the city, a terrible impossibility has been built. The streets are filled with prayers of the desperate, because everyone knows the end of the world is nigh. I can't talk about this story. I can't give you spoilers. There are incredibly grown-up relationships in this story. There are incredible performances across the board. This is what Torchwood should have been on TV. Not that nonsense with Children of Earth or Miracle Day or anything like that. This is true, pure, fantastic Torchwood. So listen to the trailer and decide for yourself. As far as I'm concerned, bring on the next one. So until next time, be seeing you.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions, Torchwood, God Among Us, Volume 3.
I'm Neve.
And I'm Jeff.
And, well, a
hell of a lot has happened since we've last done an episode of Cardiff Unknown. There's been a flood, which would be quite the mystery.
If hundreds of people hadn't died, and there weren't refugee camps everywhere.
And remember we mentioned that secret organisation based in Cardiff?
Turns out they caused it.
Torchwood.
Public enemy number 1.
They keep lists here. Lists of the missing. That's why I came here. To find Anthony. To find my son.
Tell me, how would you react if you found out that this disaster wasn't an act of God? What if it turned out people were responsible?
What are we not being told? Who's responsible?
Torchwood.
We're being attacked by a shared fantasy.
Yes.
Why couldn't it be Gorka from Strictly? Remain! The sea is boiling! Repent, people, repent!
I've walked across this city and seen the chaos that reigns. There's rioting, looting, panicking, fighting. It's your job to stop all this.
No, sorry, it's not. We've both been responsible for terrible things, and I've had enough of it.
You can watch the end of the world.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Is this what happens when God stops believing in herself?
On Saturday the 31st of August 2019, Hooverville returns. The Derby Quad brings us the best little Doctor Who convention in the world. Guests announced so far include Andrew Smith, Ingrid Oliver, Osgood, Sophia Miles, Madame Pompadour, the girl in the fireplace, Nabil Shaban, who played Syl, Christopher Ryan, Lord Kiv in Mind Warp, and General Stahl in the Sontaran Stratagem, Edward Russell, former Doctor Who brand manager, Rob Ritchie, 3D animator on the Macra Terror, Keith Barnfather from Real Time Pictures, Chris Chapman, Doctor Who VAM producer, James Burgess, model maker on Mission to the Own remake, and there are sponsored guests including Michael E. Bride, director, and Simon Fisher Becker, who played Dorian Maltavar. There are still guests to be announced, and some of them are pretty impressive. So get yourself over to the Derby Quad website and book yourself a ticket for Saturday the 31st of August 2019. See you there. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.